Canada. She came with the passport of the wife of this man. She came with him. They were a kind of relatives. And they took her to the apartment here. And what they did is that then they said, you know, to stay here in Canada, you need to make a claim. She was, for what for? Because she was cleaning and she was in, what it was going on. They forced her to make a claim. Then they forced her to apply for welfare. She never saw welfare money. And they never let her go out from the apartment. She didn't go to school, she was cleaning and everything. How she got out of that situation is because she was taking care of 2 children. And one of the children was crying too much. And the neighbors started concerned what's going on with these children. And they called the woman, the neighbor came to talk to her, and she realized that she was not speaking English. She realized that she was not, that it was something wrong. And she started crying with this woman. And she looked for help. She sent the young girl to come in her house. And children saying intervene. What happened with her? She was 20, no? When I told you. Now she's 24. We're still fighting that she can stay in Canada because she doesn't want to go back to El Salvador. Why? Because she will go again to the same cycle. And I want to move with this example that I'm saying is a gender inequality. And why? We are coming from a system that we are, I'm sorry for all the guys, I'm really glad to see a lot of men here, but we are coming from a system that is dominated by males. And this is history. Where women, we have been fighting all the time for our rights. And still, we are in that situation. And I believe Benjamin, because he's a male, and I throw it the ball, if you see, I didn't throw it to me, I throw it to Benjamin, who is coming. He will explain you a little bit more as a man, because I haven't heard him talking, how this system, patriarchal system, is really putting us on the second-class citizen. The other is the media, how the media is helping that. You know that we need to dress up very nice. We have to be a beautiful woman because we need, in the South Club, we need to be a Barbie. You know the Barbie, you know, how they build the Barbie and how to make it. And the media is helping a lot. We talk about, I was talking a lot about, not a lot, but talking about forced labor, but if you go to the telephone book and in directory and you see all the sports, and now it's fashion to have Asian sport, Spanish sport. We speak very sensual voice. That's everybody's telling us. Even our English has a quite sensual accent. And that's how they portrayed us. They portrayed us as an object. They portrayed us as a woman that we don't think. We have to be a second-class citizen and we have to be under control. That's why it's so easy trafficking. Because the demand. And the demand, women everywhere. To clean us, to cook for us, even when you get married, sometimes that's how they suffer. And to be good in bed. And they can even sell us. And that's if you see how in the system that I will go a little bit, how Canada is doing and how the patriarchal system even has an influence about what Canada is doing to stop trafficking. The first thing that they did, traffickers, enforcement, put them on jail. The Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, it came that if you are committed, you bring someone, traffic someone, you can go to jail. The first case that was, like in 2004, was based on that part of regulation of the IRPA. The second thing that they did, the criminal code. We need to change, but everything is against enforcement. To prosecute, persecute, to criminalize the trafficker. And what happened with the victims? Or they don't have a status, they should go home. It's not our problem. Who are the victims? Most of us, we are women. I can give you one example, international example. You know what is the country that is the cheapest to do plastic surgery and to increase your breast, wherever the numbers you want to have it. You know where is it? Colombia. They have, you know for how much you can get your breast bigger? For $400. And they are trafficking women. They come as students here in Canada. And then sometimes they find them in the products. And you ask them, how you managed to lose so weight? And they say, well, the bisturi. It's bisturi, I believe in English too. With the knife, they model. And that's why, because we are coming from a system that's how they want to do us. And the other, I want to talk that Canada has an obligation because Canada is a signature of the Palermo Protocol. And the Palermo Protocol, they talk about, didn't came to stop only trafficking. They were talking about organized crime. And that's how it came with the trafficking issue. Canada signed the Palermo Protocol, and part of the Palermo Protocol, they have a definition that says recruitment, transportation, harboring, or receipt of person by use of threat, force, other forms of coercion, abduction for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation means sex trade, forced labor. But Canada took this very seriously to persecute, but in the Palermo Protocol, in the Article 6, says something very important, that the state government has to provide assistance and protection to victims, including housing, health, kind of to stay, but these are considered by the government, but to give the possibility to stay, appropriate counseling, legal services, legal representation, psychological support, and even employment. What is doing Canada? I read you what has to be in protection, some of the main issues about what the Palermo Protocol said. What I've been doing in Canada is that the first thing is, first they laid down some charges on the persecution, but to protect the victims, they came, Irina said about the Monty Solberg, who was the Minister of Citizenship last year and at the end of this year, the beginning of this year. They came in May 2006 for the temporary resident permit for victims of trafficking in persons. And this one, when they started in May 2006, from May 2006 to May 2007, there were only 2 cases of trafficking. Even though that we know, because they say that in Canada there is a suspicion of 8,000, 60,000 illegal migrants trafficked in Canada annually. What was the temporary resident permit is that the woman can have 4 months, they changed it, for 6 months now, where they can have an interim federal health program, where they can have counseling and medical protection. But what is the conditions for the temporary resident permit? It's a little bit different than in the United States, because in the United States you can have a protection and even to live in the United States if you collaborate with the enforcement. Here in Canada is kind of subliminal message, but the woman has to come and knock the door to the Immigration Canada and say, you know, I am a victim of trafficking and I need a protection. We at the Canada, because we are members of the Canadian Council for Refugees, we at the beginning we say, oh, this is a great idea, we have to do something. But when we start calling to the immigration and say how we can do it, because I work with refugee claimants and I thought, well, here in Toronto, the open office is in Etobicoke, we can do a letter, even we can accompany the woman and she can be interviewed with immigration and to start receiving medical assistance. Why I'm talking about the TRP, that's how it is, the temporary resident permit, because most of the women, when they come, if they come with a student visa, if they come with a tourist visa, if they come even illegally, at one point they lose their status. The temporary resident permit is for people who doesn't have a status. If the person has a kind of a status, has a tourist visa, what happened in Vancouver, if you learn this year, there was a raid in Vancouver that in the parlor, and they got women from